Hi everyone, and thank you for coming to our talk at Red Tree Wellness. And today I will be presenting on personalized nutrition and nutrigenomics. Essentially what that is the use of your genes and genetic testing and how it relates to your nutrition and your ability to absorb nutrients. So before I begin, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what naturopathic doctors are and what we do, what our training is, because not a lot of people know. And I just wanted to do a little brief thing about it. So essentially, every naturopathic doctor, we will go through 4 years of medical school, and that covers all the basic stuff. So that includes pathology, pharmacology, anatomy, physiology, and emergency medicine. On top of that, we learn all our other modalities as well. A lot of things that people do know, which are acupuncture, botanical medicine. Things that people don't know are that we are trained in pharmaceutical medications. So I do have my prescriptive rights and I can prescribe medications when indicated. And we also do train in naturopathic manipulations, which is quite similar to chiropractics as well. So that is a skill that we do have. Not necessarily everyone practices it though. So before the naturopathic medical school, we do 4 years of a science-based degree, and then that will allow us to get into medical school. So that's exactly like how the system that MDs get into as well. So advanced training that I do have is, like I said, IVs, and I did do a lot of advanced training in acupuncture. So I do practice traditional acupuncture and the balance method acupuncture as well. Pharmacology, I did a lot of training in counseling as well, and naturopathic manipulation. I do teach and TA for physical medicine and naturopathic manipulation at Boucher Institute of Naturopathic Medicine, which always allows me to keep up on my game and keep learning and growing in that field of medicine as well. So now that I've kind of gone through my little spiel about it, now we can come back to what we wanted to talk about originally, which is nutrigenomics, gene testing, and how it relates to your nutrition. So the use of your genes and the testing of it allows us to determine how you're able to absorb your nutrients, how you are going to interact with the world, and how your body is going to respond to certain things, including physical activity, so exercise, and motivation, and even injury, including Achilles tendon injuries. So what is the likelihood that you will actually tear or injure your Achilles tendon compared to, say, an Olympic sprinter and their likelihood of doing it? And it all comes down to your genes. And your genes, like we all know, one pair comes from your mom and then one comes from your dad, and how they end up interacting to create you is what allows us to determine how you will be interacting with your food and nutrients. So there are about 3 different genotypes that you can have. You can either mimic your mom, you can either mimic your dad, or you can have a mixture of the two. And depending on which one you end up having, and this is completely by luck and chance, determines how you end up interacting with your everyday world and your life. So because of that, and because of how your genes are so individualized for yourself, and it allows us to individualize our treatment for you as well. Your genes are as unique as your fingerprint. So that means that your nutrition is going to be just as individualized for yourself as well. So why is it that some people can have a bunch of vitamin C and be completely fine, and then other people can just have like a cap of vitamin C and then they'll have digestive issues? It's because of your genes, it can be at least, and not one size fits all. So say you go down to your general supplement store, and the worker there says that you should be taking vitamin C because it's great for your immune system, and then they dose you at super high, say 2 grams a day, and then you end up taking it and you get this huge reaction and you just get a digestive upset and everything. But then that salesperson took the exact same thing and they're like, no, it was fine, and this is what that's why they recommended it, because that's the dose that they take. vitamins and supplements and all this stuff is just as individualized as your exercise regime. It's just as individualized as your own personal cravings for food. Everyone is different, everyone has their own interpretation and response, so we can't just say that 2 grams of vitamin C for everyone is going to be amazing and is going to have the same benefits and the same side effects. It's not. It's completely different. So, and it all falls back into your genes. So essentially how this test works is we take a sample of your saliva. You're going to spit all the way up into this tube, and then we close it. It makes the little mixture and stuff, and then we send it off to the lab. And at the lab, they do all their sciencey magic stuff that they do, and they analyze the saliva, and then they'll print out a report. And the report breaks down your 45 different genes and how it affects 7 different health areas. These health areas can be cardiometabolic health, it can be nutrient absorption, what else can it do? Physical activity, your injury risk, like I was saying, your eating habits, food intolerances, and weight management. So all 7 of those areas can be affected by your genes. So sometimes it's an actual pathology, but sometimes when you don't have anything really wrong or pathological in you, you don't have a pathology, but you still aren't able to say lose the weight that you want, even though you're dieting and exercising. You're not able to be motivated to do the things that you want to do. And the reason for it may be because of your genes, and you'll never know until you get it really tested. So then now I'm going to talk a little bit about what the reports are going to say and about risk versus response, and what a risk variant means and what a response variant means. And a risk variant is just if you have a typical or elevated risk for any of those 7 areas of health I was talking about. So cardiometabolic health, injury risks to, say, your Achilles tendon, absorption issues, all of those things show through a risk variant that you may have. Risk variant means that you have a typical or elevated risk to poor nutrient metabolism, cardiometabolic conditions, food intolerances, any unhealthy eating habits, exercise behavior, motivation to exercise, and injuries. If you have a risk variant, that means that you're more likely to have less motivation, to have an increased risk of an Achilles tendon injury, to have an increased risk of a deficiency in a certain vitamin because your genes aren't allowing you to actually absorb it, or even be able to break it down or create that protein or create that enzyme that actually allows you to absorb it. So an example that I could give you is caffeine. So if you have, they test to see if you have an elevated risk variant to caffeine. If you do have an elevated risk to caffeine, then that means that you have to limit your intake of caffeine to about 200 milligrams a day. Anything less than that is better, obviously. The less caffeine is better, and that is specifically for you if you have that risk variant. And the reason for that is because you'll probably have more of a negative reaction to caffeine. So that could be anxiety, heart palpitations. You know how like you have that friend who's just like, I just have a glass of green tea, and they just have anxiety, versus like your other friend can have like 5 cups of coffee and they're like, nope, totally fine, I can sleep and go about my day. It's because it can be because of your genes. It's just how reactive you are. Yes.
So can you just switch to decaf coffee?
Good question. So a lot of people want to just switch. Unfortunately, not all decaf coffee is the same, and it can range between actually decaffeinated, where they have 0 milligrams of caffeine, to up to 15 milligrams of caffeine. So decaf coffee can actually still contain caffeine, which is very surprising. Not a lot of people know that, and 200 milligrams isn't too many cups of coffee if you really look at it. one 250 milliliter cup of coffee contains about 100 milligrams of caffeine, so you can probably only have 2. Other things that actually do contain caffeine that you don't really think about is any colas that you drink. Black tea actually does have caffeine. Green tea also has caffeine in it, which not a lot of people think about. The only thing that has 0 caffeine outside of water is going to be herbal teas. So rooibos, any jasmine tea, any of those variants are going to have 0 caffeine in it. So if you're going to choose an alternative, going down the herbal tea route is going to be the best choice for you. And if you just love the taste of coffee, there are actually a lot of coffee substitutes that mimic the taste of coffee, and a lot of them contain chicory root, and chicory root is a very roasted taste to it, and that's why they use it as a substitute. And it has 0 caffeine in it, but you get the taste, so it's great. So a response variant indicates whether or not you will respond to a given a dietary intervention or a fitness intervention. So an example of that would be your protein consumption. So if you have a typical protein response, then that means that you only have to really consume 20 to 30% of protein that comes, you only have to get 20 to 30% of your energy from protein, and just that amount itself will allow you to maintain your fitness level. It'll allow you to maintain your weight levels, so you don't have an increased risk of actually being overweight if you have that level of protein. If you have more, then of course, the more that you have, the more that you're going to gain, right? And that's why a lot of weightlifters get a lot of protein in, because they're burning a lot and they need to build that muscle mass a lot. So if you have a lot of protein, then you do increase the risk of being overweight or obese, depending on which protein that you're eating. But if you have a elevated response to protein, that means that you have an increased risk of being obese or being overweight, and it's because of this gene. It's called fat mass and obesity associated gene. So if you have a deletion, or if you have an alteration in this gene, that means that you're more likely to gain weight or be obese, and you'll have to have a higher protein percentage in your diet, so about 25 to 35% of energy coming from protein versus someone that has more of a typical gene. And the reason that is because you want to have more protein to be more filling and to have more muscle building and amino acids to actually have the foundation to build and to keep your energy levels up, rather than getting energy from sugar or monosaturated fats or anything like that. So it's better to have a higher protein for people that have this gene deletion. Yeah. So are there any questions or concerns about just that portion of what I spoke about? Great, okay. So now I'm just gonna move on to see how IV therapy actually fits into this. Why is it that IV is, or even naturopathic medicine period, has any benefit to your genetics and your nutrition? Why is it that you can't just get the test and then be on your way type of thing, right? So there are a lot of vitamin absorptions and vitamin genes that the test actually tests for. So it's going to be like vitamin A, vitamin B12, vitamin C, any of those vitamins. It looks at your interaction with the nutrient itself, how you absorb it and everything. So vitamin A is really important for your immune system and for your vision especially. So if you have a variant in your gene, then you're at an elevated risk of deficiency if because you have a poor conversion of beta carotene, which you can get in foods such as carrots, to active vitamin A. So essentially, if you don't have that gene or you have that variant, then you're not actually being able to change it into something that your body can actually use. So no matter how many carrots that you eat, no matter how much that you eat, you're not going to be able to convert it and actually utilize it. Your body's just not going to be able to do it. So we're going to have to find a different way to go about it. Of course, you want to eat higher foods that are higher in bioactive vitamin A, and those can be, say, bluefin tuna, it can be hard goat cheese, eggs, mackerel, any of that. Those are the food sources that you can take in to get your bioactive vitamin A, or you can, this is where the IV therapy comes in, where you can actually get it injected into your bloodstream. I'll talk a little bit about the IV side of things and how it helps after I kind of go through all these vitamins and stuff. So, yes.
Are you concerned about the mercury content in tuna?
Yes, so that's a really good point. So, like I said, bluefin tuna does have a high level of bioactive vitamin A, but of course we are worried because it is such a big fish. It is massive. If anyone has ever watched Wicked Tuna on National Geographic, which is an amazing show, by the way, you can see how big and massive these fish are. Some of them can be 78 or 79 inches long and 200 pounds. So these are very big fish, and they are predatory fish. So they eat other animals, like they eat other things. They eat like plankton. They're not necessarily vegetarian, right? They are a predator. So because they're so big, they take in a lot of toxins and a lot of marine toxins from their environment, and mercury is one of them. So if you want to go down the fish route, go with smaller fish like mackerel, like anchovies, any of those smaller ones. They're lower down on the food chain, and they have less toxicity. It doesn't collect as much in a smaller fish. So going for a smaller wild fish is better than, say, a bigger farmed fish, and it's because of those mercury levels like you were talking about. So it is a better choice for sure. Vitamin B12 is important for like healthy brain, your nervous system, energy system functioning, and immune system as well. So if you have an elevated risk variant in your genes, you will also be at an elevated risk of being low in B12 in your blood levels because you're not absorbing it. And a lot of us, especially vegans and vegetarians, are low in B12 only because B12 is found a lot in animal products. So a lot of vegans and vegetarians, since they don't really eat animal products, they're at the higher risk of being a B12 deficient. So just coupling that with a gene variant that doesn't even allow you to absorb the B12 in the first place, and you will be extremely low in B12 then. Yes.
When you say animal products, do you mean chicken as well, the white meats, or is it predominantly the red?
Yeah, so it's predominantly red. So I know that we talk a lot about not having red meat, and it's not very the best for you, but everything is in moderation, right? So if you have one red like a steak or whatever red meat that you want a month, that will suffice and will balance things out. Especially for women, we bleed every month, so we lose a lot of nutrients, including iron, and you'll get a lot of that back if you eat red meat like once or twice a month. If you're gonna go down the red meat route, for sure, you wanna go with more of the grass-fed wild game meat over one that's like not organically raised. So the reason for that is because you want to have the least toxins in your body. They hold a lot because red meats are a little on the fattier side, especially beef. So fat actually holds a lot of toxins in it, which is why you want to go down more the organic route than anything. Yeah. Yes.
How would you be able to tell if you're low in B12?
Yeah, so when you're low in B12, the biggest symptoms are going to be fatigue and a poor immune system. So if you're just tired all the time and you just don't have the energy to do anything, that could be a sign of B12 deficiency. And if it's to the extreme, or you're just B12 deficient for a really long time, then you can actually get what we call peripheral neuropathy, which is you start to have numbness, tingling, and weakness, and lack of sensation in your lower extremities. That is a really big sign that you are either B12 deficient or any other pathologies such as diabetes that can do that as well. So you want to make sure that you have enough B12 in your food and in your system to be able to offset all of those things. And I mean, really, who wouldn't want more energy? So vitamin C, if you have a deletion in this gene, you'll have a poor utilization of that vitamin C, meaning that you're also not going to be absorbing vitamin C as well. And what is the big deal about not absorbing vitamin C? And that is that you do have studies have shown that low levels are linked to an increase in heart disease, type 2 diabetes, poor wound healing. And the reason for that is because vitamin C is literally used everywhere in your body. It's used in your skin to be able to actually rebuild any of the collagen of your skin cells, anything like that. That's why you have poor wound healing if you're low in vitamin C. But it is also a really, really good antioxidant, which is why, say, when you're really sick, a lot of people are like, oh, you just need to high dose in vitamin C. And the reason for that is because it's really great for the immune system. It's a great antioxidant to fight off any viral or bacterial pathology that's organism that's in you. Your body uses up a lot of resources to fight off that microorganism. So vitamin C really supports its ability to do that and to allow you to bounce back from it way better. So vitamin C is quite important, not only in immune function and skin function, but also detox and liver function as well, which is why being low or deficient in vitamin C is a problem. And we all learned from pirates that if you don't have enough vitamin C, you get scurvy, which is like when they had like all the bleeding in their mouths and everything. And then once they started sucking limes or whatever, then they didn't have those problems anymore. So I mean, just sucking on a lime allowed them to offset the scurvy. So just imagine what daily vitamin C can do for you. So now that I went through some of the different vitamins and how your genes affect your absorption of those vitamins, then I'm going to now talk about IVs and how that has anything to do with what we're talking about today. And that is what happens if you have some digestive issues, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, any of those things where there's clearly something wrong with your ability to digest and absorb things, so you have an absorption problem. Then no matter what you eat, you can eat as many oranges or as many mackerels as you want, but your body's not going to be able to absorb it on a good day because of your genes. Just imagine on a bad day where your digestive tract isn't even allowing you to absorb the minimal amount of it as well. So this is where IV vitamins come into play, because we inject it like right through into your bloodstream, and it bypasses all of it. It doesn't have to go through the digestive tract, it doesn't have to go through the liver, it doesn't have to do anything. It just goes straight into the bloodstream, and then your body just uses it quick and easy, and is just the best way to be able to high dose yourself with vitamins, and then have a maintenance, say like once a month or whatever, because then you'll be able to at least load yourself and then supplement with diet, say. And then on that note, what else that we can do as naturopathic doctors outside of the IV stuff is we're gonna treat that digestive issue. We're gonna work with your genes, we're gonna work with your body to determine how to optimize your body to be able to really not see us anymore, right? Because that's essentially what you want to do, is not see your doctor anymore. So we try to maximize your ability to absorb and utilize the nutrients in your body, and that can be through gut healing, through stress reduction, dietary lifestyle changes, any of that stuff. And then we also work on the detox pathways, which is your liver and your kidneys, to be able to move everything that you don't want in your body, all the toxins, any negative metabolites that you have, and be able to move it out of your body so that you can be as healthy as possible and them not stagnating in your body, essentially. So that is the biggest things that naturopathic doctors can do for you in this regard. And that is all I have for you today. Are there any burning questions or concerns that came out of this that you wanted?
Thank you. That was very informative.
Okay, perfect. Well, if there aren't any other questions or concerns, then thank you for coming. And if you have if you think of something, you can always call the office or and send us an email, and we will get back to you. All right, thank you.